Hello, 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 everybody. I am Dr. Alicia with Coaching with Dr. Alicia. I have Boyce on today. Dr. Boyce, how you doing, hubby? How's it going?
Doing good, baby. Doing good. How are you?
I'm okay. A little flustered because we had car trouble, we had computer trouble, but I'm happy that I'm here with you. How
Yeah,
you doing?
yeah. So Coco couldn't start the car, and I went downstairs, and guess what happened when she told me she couldn't start the car?
What?
I started the car. I just literally sat there and I hit the ignition, and the car started.
See, this is why we need fathers.
Teenagers are crazy. I tell you, teenagers ain't got no sense. But yeah, so fortunately there was no big issue with the car. So we are here, alive and well, and I'm glad to be sitting in. I don't know if I could be as great at this as Dr. Adrian Peterson, or is it Adrian Peterson or Adrian?
Carter, Adrian
Oh,
Carter.
Carter. I was thinking Adrian Peterson. That's the football player. Well, Dr. Adrian Carter.
Oh, he
Yeah,
is nothing like Adrian Peterson.
I know, right? Well, you know what? He's cooler to me than Adrian Peterson because he's a smart brother, and I hope he's okay. He kind of bounced. We didn't know what happened to him, but anyway, I'm glad to be here, and I think this is a really cool topic. So I'm happy to join you on this.
Yeah, I think it's a very cool topic and one where I feel like it kind of punctuates the importance of fatherhood. And so that's why I'm kind of happy that you're here because you're like the father extraordinaire. You're like the father figure to like any and everybody who needs a father. And I think that's very commendable of you, of course.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah, I think fatherhood's important. I think that our community um, did better when we had more fathers in the house. I think fathers matter. It's just like mothers matter. And
Mhm.
so any little bit I can chip in, I'm always happy to do that. I see Joe is in here. Joe Joseph, by the way.
Oh, well, that was a father. Joe Jackson was definitely a pretty powerful father. Um, but give or take, some of the controversy. But anyway, give or take some of the struggles of fatherhood. Speaking of Joe Jackson, I wanted today to talk about something I felt was really, really emotional and very moving. Was this recent documentary put out by Kirk Franklin about fatherhood, and it's called Father's Day. And he has an album that's coming out, and it's coming out, I think, the first week in October. And to commemorate this album, he was so moved to do. He chronicled his journey in this documentary about his process of searching for his father, something that he did not have when he was growing up in the home,
Mhm.
which you say is very important. Not only did he not have his father growing up, but he also did not have his mother there. And so at a very young age, he was basically an orphan, and a friend of the family came and adopted him and basically brought him in and gave him the love and everything that he needed at that time. But, there's this need inside of all of us to be able to know where we come from and who we are. And part of that process is getting to know and having some sort of understanding about your biological parents and the questions that he had in his head about being abandoned basically by two people who are responsible for him. And so this very I think emotional journey that he went through, and people can see this online. It's if you type in Kirk Franklin Father's Day, the documentary will come up, and it's a like a half-hour documentary, and I really encourage people to take a look at it because it not only speaks to Kirk Franklin's unique story, but I think it really undermines the story of a lot of people in our community. And so I thought it was like a very powerful thing. And I thought it was something that I wanted to have, not myself. I could talk all day and all day long about fathers, but I wanted to get a male perspective because, fathers are so important, and especially from people who are fathers. And I know Dr. Adrian Carter is a father. He is a son to somebody. And so I really wanted that unique male perspective. So I thank you for coming on and talking to me. I know you were in the middle of watching football, which is another big father thing to do on a Sunday night. But so I appreciate you coming on, boys.
Sure, absolutely. And by the way, you shouldn't put well, since you got Dr. Boy's books on the screen, I'll
Oh,
mention it.
okay.
You all should know Alicia wrote a great book called Drama Free Marriage. It's a workbook for couples interested in who want to get married. So if you're looking for the right partner, just go to drboysbooks.com and look up Alicia, and you'll find a lot of Alicia's books in there, just as an FYI. And also, I have a book called Financial Lovemaking that I wrote back when I was on the faculty of Syracuse that talks about, sort of similar topics. So, except related to love and money. She's the relationship expert. I'm the finance guy. One thing I'll say in general is that Kirk Franklin, I felt really bad for him when I heard his story. I felt terrible because I felt like this poor kid, he's a man, but in my mind, I'm looking at his inner child.
Yeah, yeah.
His upbringing was terrible. No child should have to go through that. When I heard his story in terms of not knowing who his father was and the chaos going on with his mother, honestly, the first thing that came to mind was I wondered, okay, is this drugs? It was where there drugs involved somehow, because there's something about drugs that just really disrupted the natural God-given role of the black family and the black parent and everything else, right? So crack came along and all that, and then heroin before that, and you just had a lot of chaos as a result of that, a lot of trauma that was delivered directly to our children, and so when I saw that, it then made sense. Also, if anybody remembers, I don't know, give me a guess if you remember. Those of you in the chat that are listening, if you remember, Kirk Franklin had a lot of problems with his son,
Mhm.
and I just see that as generational trauma just being passed down. And it almost speaks to this idea of why therapists like yourself are so important, because there's a whole lot of healing that needs to happen. I mean, this is one of our big themes at the All Black National Convention this year, that we have to heal. If we do not heal, then we will continue to traumatize each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is so very important. And I think part of it was he talked about his pain, the pain he felt in not knowing his father and having all of these questions, because it was an emotional roller coaster for him in this documentary, where he reflected on the fact that there were several men that came forward and said, I'm your father, I'm your father. And he went through this painstaking process of identifying all of these individuals who came forward to say he was his father. Now that speaks to whether his mother speaks to his mother and some of the things that his mother had done. And I'm sure she has a story too, right? She's also probably a victim of a whole lot of things as well.
Mm-hmm.
But he went through this process of losing who he thought was his biological father years ago, and to out of nowhere have a man come forward who, when you take a look at this documentary, they basically look alike. Like Kirk Franklin's father is just a chubbier version of him. You can tell, like, that's totally, you don't need a DNA. That's totally his father. And so when his father goes to get the DNA test, the swab, it was 99.9% accurate, or a match that is his father. And the process of him now going back to his mother and saying to his mother, hey, there's a man who's a match. My father did not die. He's not deceased. He's actually alive and well. And I got to tell you, I was a little disappointed in the women in Kirk Franklin's life, the older women in his life, and their response to Kirk Franklin. Yeah, I got to tell you, it was out and out hostile. The way Aunt Sandra and his mom, Deborah, the way they responded to Kirk Franklin, I didn't see a lot of compassion. I didn't see a lot of empathy. I didn't see a lot of love. And it just reminded me of, not that all mothers do this, but some mothers who can be down and out cruel to their children and not take accountability for the fact that she didn't know who the father was really, and how when they presented her with this evidence, it was science. This is science talking. 99.9% of a match that he's the biological father. She didn't even want to deal with it. When they talked to her about it, so much so that he went through yet another process of getting a second DNA test. And sure enough, it came through. And I was waiting for an apology from this lady. Not once did she ever say, I'm sorry. You should not have to go through this pain. I was waiting for Aunt Shirley to wake up and 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 show any sense
You
of
were waiting for her, waiting for her to like like react or give him
compassionate.
some empathy.
She didn't. I was waiting for a hug. I was waiting for an acknowledgement. I was waiting for a tender moment between the two of them that was missed. And it just made me think that it's probably a good thing he was adopted in a sense, because I can't imagine what it would be like to grow up with that. And so, what I love about Kirk Franklin was that he was extremely vulnerable. He put his heart on his sleeve. He took what could have been something absolutely devastating and he put it into this beautiful documentary, and I think it's relatable for all of us. I just wish Aunt Sandra and Mama, Deborah, had been a little more compassionate in their response to him. I mean, Aunt Sandra was down, just out and out, just kind of nasty toward him. So you get the impression that there was some sort of history there that they didn't go into. And I'm sure Aunt Sandra got a story to tell too. But it just really seemed kind of terrible the way his parents or the way his mother handled the situation. Anyway, did you want to say
Right.
anything about moms before I move on? Because I could talk
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. Basically, like I think to kind of nail it down, I think the biggest issue there to me is, when you talk about, I'm a wealth guy, and a lot of people don't understand why, as a wealth guy, I might talk about things like this, like trauma and family. And what people don't understand is that it's really, really hard to become successful from an economic standpoint when you don't have stable families or when you have trauma everywhere, because you spend your whole life kind of running from behind. If you're spending all your time trying to play catch up, you can't focus on prospering and succeeding. It's like when the University of Colorado played against Oregon the other day and got their butts spanked on national TV. They couldn't think about, like, okay, how many points are we going to win by? They weren't thinking like, what kind of dance are we going to do in the end zone? They were in survival mode. Shador Sanders was trying to avoid getting sacked. He wasn't thinking about trying to really get down the field. He was trying to avoid not losing more yardage. So a lot of times in life, we go through the same thing. If you start your children off behind with significant emotional deficits, I believe it becomes very difficult for them to win at the higher levels. It's almost like a kid coming to school and you're expecting them to learn math, but they didn't eat that day. If the kid didn't eat that day, they're not going to be able to learn mathematics. It's not possible. So I think that this is something that needs to be addressed. I think this is a national crisis. This is something that
Mhm.
needs to be addressed with the same seriousness that we address, anything else. I don't understand why we would spend more time trying to figure out if Cardi B is going to have another baby than we spend saying, how do we heal our families and heal our community? I don't know. Give me a yes. In fact, give me a yes in the chat, anybody, if you have had family trauma. Give me a yes if you have had some abuse. Give me a yes if you've had a broken family situation. Give me a yes if you've had somebody just doing somebody dirty, or it could even be a daddy who died and didn't leave any money, and the family's trying to raise money at the GoFundMe. Like, all these things are terrible, and I really think that those of us who get into a position where we're the steward for somebody else, where you're representing a child and you're protecting a child, it is up to you to make the conscious decision to heal. You cannot remain a child anymore. You got an inner child that needs to be fixed, for sure. You need to fix that damn inner child so you can get to the business of protecting someone else's inner child. Because if you don't, there's going to be a baby raising a baby, and one baby's going to abuse the other one, and then you're going to just continue the generational curse. Just pass it along like a big old STD. And I'm encouraging you, get the healing that you need. We have to be serious about this. I have no idea why we don't do that.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I'm so happy you brought up Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, because even though you don't have a father in the home, Deion Sanders and you, two boys, represent, a wonderful intervention that could kind of heal some of the pain of a lot of children who did not have a father right there in the home every day. Like, you've stepped in many ways and made a big difference in the lives of many children, even though you weren't there every day. And Deion Sanders is doing that not only with his own child, because what a beautiful way. Did you see the video when Deion Sanders and was talking to his son, the quarterback, and the thing and the encouragement he gave him and the love and the response? It was just beautiful to see that on screen. But Deion Sanders also is almost like a father figure to the entire team. He talks to them about how to dress, how to talk, how to represent yourself, what to do, how to be. He's not trying to make them better football players. Yeah, that's great. Winners are always wonderful, but he's really taking efforts to really make wonderful young men, you know.
Mhm.
So where he's saying anybody in my vicinity, any young black man, white man, he doesn't even care about color at this point. He's at Colorado, of course. You know, he's saying, I'm going to mentor these people and make an impact in their lives because they're in my presence. Not only do I see that from Deion Sanders, but I also see that from you boys. You do a lot of that too. So it's just because you don't have a father in the home doesn't mean your life is over. Just because you didn't grow up without that particular, you know, father figure inside your home every single day, your life is not over. It's not over for you. You can have other people that can step in and be able to absolutely make a difference in your life. So you're not done over. Your background can guide, you know, and it definitely has an influence on who and what you can become. But if you heal from it, you can come on the other side of that, like Kirk Franklin was doing. Like he used his painful experience and put it into music, and beautiful
Mhm.
gospel music, by the way. I'm a fan of Kirk Franklin. I love his gospel music. And so I just think that this is a wonderful illustration to all of us. We all can relate to this. We all know somebody in this situation. We know ourselves can be in this situation. We understand not having the absence of a father. And not only that, I think it's a brilliant way to show how, even though you weren't able to be the father that you know you should have been, it's a good illustration that it's not too late. You can never
Mhm.
give up. Even though things in the past, and we all got things in the past that's shady, and you know, we all have things that we regret. It's not over. I mean, Kirk Franklin's what, in his 50s? And he's still figuring stuff out. So it's not over for you. And I think the beauty of Kirk Franklin at the end of the half-hour documentary was him going to his son. And you know, boys, we did a pillow talk. Remember, we did a pillow
Mhm.
talk on
Yeah.
Kirk Franklin and the very public sort of issues, you know, with he and his son, and they showed them making up on screen, you know, at this day and age. And I just think it's just a beautiful thing to record and to show for all of us that it's never too late to heal.
Right. Well, it's definitely never too late. It's also not too late to hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. My wife forgets to do that stuff, but I want to make sure I remind everybody. You're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia. And Dr. Alicia, her website, which she does not want to put on the screen apparently, is
Lord.
coachingwithdralicia.com. I want to make sure my wife gets to shine. I don't want no more shine. I get enough attention. I want everybody to know how great what my wife's work is. So her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. She's a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work, and I'm a finance professor. That's what I do. And also, there's a book I wrote years ago. If you are interested in things like love and money, that's what we talk. We talk a lot about that. I have a book called Financial Lovemaking. So if you'd like to take a look at that book, you can go to drboycebooks.com. It's also on Amazon. And I hope you'll also join my wife and I at the All Black National Convention this year. We've lined up dozens and dozens and dozens of Black experts who are going to literally address issues in our community. We raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this, and this is the biggest event on earth for intelligent Black people around the world. We have a lot of great people there, all the way from billionaires all the way to working class people, and it's a lot of fun. So if you'd like to join us at the convention, just visit allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. Also, I'll put all my content and my wife's content on Spotify and Apple. So if you look up my name, Boyce Watkins, on Spotify or Apple, you'll find everything there. All right, so let's dig back into this a little bit. Like, so I'll, in terms of resetting my thoughts on this, with Kirk Franklin, I like the fact that Kirk is doing this, right? I mean, he's putting out this album, and that's kind of, that's honestly, from a business standpoint, that's a business thing, right?
Mhm.
A product having a story makes it a more relatable product. And, most brands have a story. Like whenever Disney puts out a new movie or a new character, they have a story that goes with the character. When there's a new superhero in Marvel, there's a story that goes with the hero. So Kirk Franklin was, I think, in a very gracious and intelligent way, utilizing his own story as a way to also
Mhm.
catapult his next album. And his album, um, you know, absolutely positively deserves to be supported, because this guy's really a man who is publicly working to improve himself. He's already extraordinarily talented. And I have so much respect for him, just so much admiration. Now, somebody says Dr. Alicia needs to write a book. I should have mentioned she does have a book. It's called Drama Free Marriage. It's a workbook for couples. And don't you have another one, Drama Free? You have Drama Free Marriage, and what's the other one?
Okay, I have Drama Free Marriage, Drama Free Conversations, and Drama Free Family that me and you did together, boys. We worked on that
Yes,
together.
yes,
Drama
we
Free
did.
Family with you, because we trying to keep our drama free family drama free, right? We're trying to live up to our own book, right? And drama free marriage, and of course drama free conversations, which I think everybody should get that one, for sure. There's also courses. So if you go on coachingwithdralicia.com, there's corresponding courses where we've done videos on those topics. I also have, I'm not sure if it's in the store, but do you have my one about financial anxiety? Is that in there?
I believe it is. I mean, I think that if people go to Dr.
We
Boyce,
got to add it to there.
yeah.
If it isn't. Financial anxiety, that is a workbook about financial anxiety. I think it's pretty cool. And there's a course that comes along with it too, but financial anxiety. Okay. And I also have one that I'm going to be.
Okay, we got to get back to Kirk Franklin. You going down to, you taking us in a whole nother direction,
you
lady.
asking about my books.
I know they asked about the book, not every single thing you've ever done. You've done a lot. No, but seriously though, like, yeah, drboycebooks.com. If you look up her name, you'll find all her stuff. But let's get back to that point. I don't want to forget my point because you're gonna make me forget my point. Because we're up here talking about all these books and everything. They don't worry about the topic. But the main thing about this that's interesting to me is that I think Kirk is a guy that is doing what I think every intelligent, capable Black man should do. And that is to be a father for the community. Our community needs more fathers, and so one of the reasons that I challenge, a lot of the men that get caught up in the hurricane of angry men that you sit around and talk terrible about women all day is be really careful. Or, especially guys that maybe talk bad about single mothers and say, why would you want to be a father to kids that are not yours? I don't believe that type of behavior should be respected or tolerated, not because they don't have a right to do what they want to do. They can do whatever they want. And I've had people make little wimpy videos about me and say, Dr. Boyce is telling everybody they need to go be a stepdaddy. I never said that. I ain't telling you what to do. Only thing I'm telling you to do is chill out and just do you. Don't go and create some false narrative that Black children are not worthy of love just because their parents made a mistake. Do not go around acting like that little kid who's looking up to you doesn't deserve your attention just because that ain't your child. I hope somebody understands where I'm coming from. I hope somebody gets it. Because there are, going all the way back to slavery, when families were split up during slavery, it was always some other man that came along and ended up taking care of some kids because the daddy got shipped to a different plantation. This goes back hundreds of years, Black people. My father did the same thing for me. So I'm not saying every man has to do this. Not every man is equipped. Not every man wants to. And it's okay. You don't have to. It's like the military. Everybody ain't got to go to war. But don't run around acting like nobody should go to war because we have a battle to fight. We have to fight for our families. We have to fight for our children. And when you just neglect children out of your own selfishness, what you're doing is you're creating predators for the next generation. So you might be taking good care of your kids and don't give a damn about the neighbor's kids. But one day, one of the neighbor's kids might run up and rob your kid. And so you got to realize we're living in this village together, and it's up to all of us to work together to fix things. I hope somebody understands where I'm coming from on this. Go ahead.
And I mean, like the aftermath of being basically abandoned is that you have issues related to rejection. You have issues related to loneliness and insecurities. And I think, that's unfortunate, but you internalize a lot of that. You're like, what's wrong with me that my own father doesn't care for me? What's wrong with me that my own mother isn't putting my needs first? Like when you're a mom and you're a child, you don't just think about yourself. You do have to think about other people. You don't only think about other people, but you have to make the child feel important and special. And when Kirk Franklin spoke about his abandonment, all I could think about is the insecurities and how fulfilled he is with his music, the recognition that he gets all around the world, for the beautiful things that he does. He puts together this music, and he talked about how that was so therapeutic for him, how he can get what he was going through, process all of that with his therapist, but also through his art, which is his creativity, which is writing. And although he can't sing very well, but he can write and produce and put together all of these songs. And there's so much feeling in it. And he feels really together. And so I know he had some issues with his marriage later on, and it seems like he's worked through that sort of thing. And I just think that it's just a journey that all of us go through. We're all here. We're all here in our journey, and there is no perfect childhood. There's no perfect childhood at all. There's no perfect relationship. There's no perfect situation. There's no perfect anything. So you just have to take that for what it is and try to learn and grow from whatever challenges that each one of us are facing.
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I think, yeah, I think that the other thing about about fatherhood and manhood and womanhood and everything else is that I don't think anybody has it all figured out, right? I
Yeah.
think that everybody who thinks other people have it figured out, just stop thinking that, because a lot of times it's tempting to believe that you're the only one who's confused about what to do or how to handle the next situation. And all of us are confused. All of us are like, gosh, was I too hard on them? Was I too easy? Did I not do too little? Did I do too much? And it's an ongoing kind of process. And what I would encourage anybody to do, all intelligent Black people, is take the time to learn some of the tools of therapy and stuff like that, because that'll give you some insights into ways to sort of handle things, like just basic conflict resolution. A lot of people would probably have a much happier life and a lot more wealth if they simply had basic conflict resolution skill. A lot of tragedy, most tragedies in the Black community, give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying. Most tragedies in the Black community could have been avoided if somebody with conflict resolution skills was on the scene. But because nobody wants to learn, nobody wants to sit down and actually study these things, then you have these tragedies happen, all the way down from divorce to friendships being lost to businesses falling apart to people getting shot, right? Just crazy things, kids getting beat up after school because wasn't nobody there to say, okay, calm down, let's look at the bigger picture, let's resolve this. And so I personally think that one of the most critical things Black people need, even we need this, in fact, we need conflict resolution skills so bad, I will put it right up there with reparations in terms of stuff that we need. We need that as bad as we need reparations. We really need our reparations. We also need that ability to find some way, some alternative, other than fighting with the people that are supposed to love you. You cannot win. You cannot win in any sport if you're fighting with your teammates. You'll never win in any sport. If the Oregon players have been fighting with each other when they play Colorado, they would not have been able to win that game. So you got to find a way to get along with your teammates and get on the same page, and work through those bumps in the road and stick with it. Because if you don't, then and you keep giving up on each other, then you're going to end up lonely and stuck and struggling. And I don't want that for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I love that because people are going to make mistakes. Like one thing that's given is that you will feel pain. Another thing that's a given is that you will make a mistake, and it's okay as long as you're able to look at it and not internalize it and think I am a mistake. No particular person is a mistake. You make mistakes and you can correct it and do better. It takes introspection, it takes reflection, it takes tuning into how you felt in the moment that led you to make this mistake, and it takes correction. Like, I'm sure Deion Sanders right now is sitting back thinking and reflecting, okay, we lost this game, but what can we learn from this so that it's not just a total big disaster of a loss? What can we learn from this, and how can we use this to motivate us to be better going forward? So it's okay. In a sense, there are no mistakes in a sense, we're all just living our lives, just, experiencing things, and when you feel like you lost, maybe sometime that's an opportunity to grow. And that's what conflict resolution is in our community, because there's so many people that's so prideful. They don't want to say they're sorry. They don't even want to admit that they're wrong. They walk around like they're better than everybody. And I'm tired of that in our community. I'm tired of people getting online, pointing the fingers at individuals. I'm pointing the fingers at the people who point the fingers. We need to stop doing that, because it's just, it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't help anything. And when you confront somebody, and you look at them with contempt, you cannot help them. You can't help the situation. And it makes me look at those individuals and think, wow, they must have a really sad life.
Mm. I think to your point, I think that's what you said is great, and I got about 10 more minutes, and then
Okay.
I gotta get to my meeting.
All
But
right.
what I'll say is this. And by the way, if everybody could hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And Alicia's website is coachingwithdralicia.com. And also, I want to make sure everybody knows that all the content that she does. I put that on my Dr. Boyce breakdown on Spotify and Apple. So if you ever want to just listen in and you like intelligent Black conversations that are also fun, then feel free to just search for my name there. I like to believe that we do something that's different from anything you'll see anywhere in any media platform. There's no place that I know of where two Black professors who love each other get together and talk about the Black community, particularly in areas of love and money. So I like to think that what we're doing here is unique and we're doing our best. Yeah, I would say overall, it's it really goes back to that theme of really doing the work. And if you think about, let's use that Colorado, Oregon example again, just because, since we're fresh off that crazy game that happened. What's interesting about that, right, is if you think about your family, and I write about this. My latest book is The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. Some of you know about this book. And in this book, one of the things I explain to Black folks, I'm talking about economics now, but this relates directly to the stuff you're talking about, conflict resolution, family structure, all that. Why? Well, because you can think of your family like a team, right? Like a football team, right? And the thing about a team is that you can have, and I tell this to my students in our stock options training class in the Black Business School, is I say there are two emotions you have to avoid as an investor. The two emotions you have to avoid are fear and greed. Fear tends to kick in when you're doing badly. Greed kicks in when you're doing well. So here's the thing that's interesting, right? Oregon had a great win against Colorado, one of the biggest wins in in the last 10 years for that program, maybe ever. Colorado had one of the worst losses, definitely of the season, like one of the biggest embarrassments of the year in college football. Both of those teams as a unit are in jeopardy because for two separate reasons. One unit, it could be in jeopardy because they've had so much success. The other unit could be in jeopardy because they had, just a really humiliating failure. And so what I mean by that is, if you remember, Kobe and Shaq were a great team, but they broke up because they were winning championships and ego kicked in. The Dallas Cowboys had that problem when they had Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson. They were winning all these Super Bowls. Ego kicked in. The Chicago Bulls could not be beaten in the NBA Finals. Egos kicked in, right? So sometimes when you're winning, so if you think about it from as a family, when you're doing well financially, that can cause the family to break up. The same as when you're not doing well, right? Because when you're not doing well, everyone starts to get afraid. People become less committed to the union. People start pointing fingers and blaming each other, just like a basketball team. If the team is losing, suddenly everybody's mad. You didn't give me the ball. You didn't do this right. You didn't do that right, right? So in both of those situations, what's crazy is that in both of those situations, whether you are doing well or doing poorly, both of those outcomes can jeopardize the strength of the relationship, in my opinion. And so I kind of think, just generally, I'm throwing my little wealth perspective on this. Anybody who, really doesn't understand the link between family structure and family staying together and sticking together with the team and actually achieving goals in the wealth space, I encourage you to reconsider that. Because it happens all the time that when you don't have those basic abilities to sort of pull the union back together and maintain the strength of the union, then you ultimately lose. In fact, if you go back to the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln didn't wake up saying, "I'm gonna free no slaves." He said, "My goal is to maintain the union." Right. So maintaining that union, whatever union matters to you, I encourage you to do that. And sometimes it requires you to humble yourself a little bit in order to make that happen. So I'm done. I'll let you get the last word.
Yeah, I'll get the last word. And I really love what you're saying about fear and greed, because both of those come from a deep seated place of insecurity, of not feeling that you're worthy and not feeling that you're good enough. I have seen individuals throw away a really good spouse because they just didn't feel that they were worthy enough. And they would do everything in their power to make sure that the one outcome that they're afraid of, like a lot of, we'll just say men, are afraid that their wives will leave them. So instead of living in that fear and not feeling that they're worthy enough to be with who they want to be, they'll do everything in their power to make sure that they leave them. They're not thinking about anything. They're not thinking about preserving the family. They're not thinking about keeping that family structure together because they don't feel like they deserve it. They don't feel like they're worthy. And, it's an unconscious way of dealing with that, with the fear and the greed, because you're afraid. You're afraid that if I open up to this person and they see me for who and what I really am, are they going to reject me? Are they going to laugh at me? Am I going to be shamed? So this is what I mean when it comes from this grandiosity versus this shameful place. Families can't stay together when you don't have healed individuals in the family. So you're so right. When you're healed, whatever it is your issues are, when you have a process of introspection and looking and examining how some of it is you, some of it isn't, some of it is environmental, it's all of those things together. When you're able to look at that without a sense of shame and feeling like there's something wrong with you, you can be the stand-up wife, the stand-up husband, the stand-up child. You can participate in life going forward with confidence. And I think that's what we really need as a Black community.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I'll tell you that I think that's 100% true. And and again, these are things that you learn, in therapy and stuff. And I think that it's we got to get rid of that crazy stigma that people have where they think they're gonna figure it out on their own. Like, and then you wonder why all your relationships are falling apart, why you don't have a good relationship with your parents, you can't get along with your kids. You and your best friend used to be cool, and now you ain't talking no more. Your business fell apart because you and your partner can't work together. You be I'm gonna tell you that ability to seek out and maintain and repair healthy relationships is one of the most important skills you can have if you want to be successful or build wealth. So I encourage everybody to be more intentional about it. It's just like taking care of your health. Your body's not going to be in shape by accident or just by happenstance. You have to be deliberate about that.
Yeah, it takes work. And people think that, oh, everything is supposed to come to me. Well, yeah, it works that way. But, you have to be willing to receive and to embrace all of this and to have those conversations that you need to have to resolve conflicts.
Absolutely.
So
All right.
thank you, boys. I really appreciate you coming on. Oh my gosh.
Sure thing, man. I'm always happy to hang out with you.
Okay, well, I
You're the
appreciate
prettiest
you.
lady
I
I
just
know.
want to let you know.
All right, everybody. Well, before we head on out, if you could please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, Dr. Alicia is going to join us at the All Black National Convention. We have tons and tons of experts that are coming together specifically to solve problems in the Black community. And it's also a great big family reunion. It's a lot of fun. And I know you're going to love it. Everybody that comes to the convention always loves it. We're going to be in Atlanta, October 20th through the 22nd. If you'd like to join us, you can visit allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. Also, Dr. Alicia's website, where she sees clients on an individual and collective basis, is coachingwithdralicia.com. And you can also follow her at Coaching with Dr. Alicia on Instagram. And also, if you want to take a look at some of her books, her drama-free series, drama-free means trauma-free. So to get rid of the drama, you got to confront the trauma. So if you'd like to take a look at any of her stuff, I put it on my Shopify store. Just go to drboycebooks.com and our kids will ship you a copy. Just look up Alicia in the search box and you'll find all her stuff. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. And thank you for hanging out with us. All right.
Bye-bye,
See you soon.
everybody.
Bye-bye.